What's going on, everybody? Let's just jump straight into this per usual. This is your weekly update. We're going to talk about, things I think that are important right now, cover a little bit about what took place last week and what to look forward to going into the next week. So as you can see, we have these three pictures here, and I think that's kind of the overall narrative of the market, okay? BTC, artificial intelligence, and meme coins. Now, we're going to cover that last. Let's first talk about some of the things that took place this week. So if you didn't know, JP Morgan reported that they're holding shares of several spot Bitcoin ETFs. And this headline, I think, was a bit misleading for some people because a lot of people think that means that JP Morgan actually is holding Bitcoin like themselves. But rather, it's not that. It's that they have clients that are holding Bitcoin. So JP Morgan is holding Bitcoin on the behalf of clients. Okay. Now, this wasn't like a tremendous amount. It says here about $760,000 worth of these Bitcoin ETFs. And some people will say, well, that's not a big deal. And for me, it's not really the quantity of the ETFs. It's the fact that it's happening at all. I mean, just going back 10 years ago when Bitcoin wasn't really, no one really knew what it was. Most people wouldn't have thought that you would have major banks offering these things for clients. So this to me is a pretty cool thing to see. And I think you're going to see this, going forward. Okay. So this is definitely not bearish. Some people may try to spin it that way because the quantity of the ETFs is small, but I think it really is just showing you acceptance and, we're moving along here in terms of adoption. Wells Fargo also has Bitcoin ETFs on the behalf of clients, a smaller amount, but those are two major banks, JP Morgan being, I think, the largest bank in the world, Wells Fargo being the third largest, if I'm not mistaken. So this is pretty cool to see. So we had some interesting developments this week in terms of the potential spot ETH ETF. And this is a really interesting scenario here where it appears that there could be some sort of negotiation going on right now between ETH spot ETF applicants and the SEC. A lot of people just assume that this is not going to be approved now and that it will be approved later. And initially, ARK, and I think also Grayscale, had included in that application the capability of staking ETH. And a lot of people, when they saw that, were like, oh, that means it's definitely not going to get approved because they already know that that's not going to get approved. And this would, they're only putting that in there so they have a head start for when it does get approved. But they're actually removing it, which may indicate that they're in negotiations and the SEC may have said, hey, if you take that out, maybe we can go somewhere with this. So this is definitely a signal here for me. Now, obviously, we need more information. But considering really the horrible price action for ETH and the massive discount it has from its local highs and certainly the all-time highs, this could kind of change the narrative if we can see, more conversation around this or more signal around this. So I just wanted to kind of bring this up because this could be potentially a narrative going into the next few months. All right, let's talk a little bit about what's on the economic calendar. So we talked about in the last video how this week was really, there really wasn't that much going on. We had the U.S. unemployment claims, which came in actually higher than expected. The market actually liked that, and we got a pretty decent bounce in equities when that occurred. Also Bitcoin, but it got rejected shortly after that. And then we had a higher or a lower than expected consumer sentiment, which I think may have been like the lowest on record, if I'm not mistaken. And the market kind of, I don't know really how it kind of perceives that right now. Some people say it's bullish. Some people say, oh, that's like really bearish. But this was really all we had this week. I really don't think this was a big deal, the consumer sentiment. But next week, we have a lot going on. Okay, specifically the CPI. Okay, based on where we are right now in the crypto cycle and just where we are in just risk assets in general, this has the potential to really, take us higher or lower. depending on how this comes in, specifically the core CPI. If this core CPI comes in lower, or maybe even just as expected, I think the market is really going to like that. Okay, because that could create kind of this Goldilocks scenario where GDP is actually still pretty good, meaning we still have growth, which means that future earnings may also be favorable. But inflation actually coming down. Those two factors together is really what I think the market wants to see. So this is going to be something I think that will really define kind of the mood, the narratives conversation next week, and that is on Wednesday. Let's talk a little bit about Bitcoin here. And I think this is what we're going to, the Bitcoin technicals and also some other technicals. I think we're going to spend more time talking about this. So right now, Bitcoin is still in this consolidation. In the last video, we talked about how we've developed this range from roughly 73K to what I would consider kind of the bottom right now, which is like 60. Technically, you did have a deviation under that. But these are really like the range high and lows. I'll just say 70 and 60. So we're really just kind of bouncing around these levels with slight deviations outside. And we really need Bitcoin to hold this 60K level, which is also the 100-day moving average. Okay. I think this is pretty critical that we hold this 100-day moving average and show some constructive price action in this range versus coming down to test lower levels like this last low or lower to the 200-day moving average. If we actually go back in time, okay, to the last cycle, I just want to show you something I find kind of interesting. So although no cycle is the same and it's a very dynamic situation, the psychological kind of ups and downs are actually pretty similar because of the big impulses we have in these cycles. And what I mean by that is this is the 2017 bull market where we topped in early 2018, or maybe it was late 2017. We had this crazy downwards bear market, got everybody super bullish, reflexive to the upside, reflexive to the downside. And then we had like a bounce that occurred in like 2019. And then you got into like the real kind of consolidation level or zone before we entered into the next one, the next up cycle. This is where we actually are right here in terms of like timing of the cycles, which is kind of interesting because if you look at this, this is after the halving, and we never once touched this 200-day moving average. Not once. We almost touched it right here, okay? But this literally the entire cycle all the way to the top, we never touched that 200-day moving average one time until you got to the actual top. So does that matter? I mean, this is such a small data sample there, but the psychological kind of ups and downs are the same. Okay, so if we look at the current cycle, we had, again, we had this big move up and eventually this big move down, super bearish price action, ended up having, we started getting into the consolidation zone. But once we blasted off, or, we've blasted off all the way to the top, which is a little bit different than last time. We still haven't touched that 200-day moving average since we really started blasting off, which is like last cycle. So what I'm saying is maybe people shouldn't expect for this to touch that 200-day moving average, considering the bullish variables this cycle are way more compelling than the last cycle. I mean, there's so many more factors to be bullish about this cycle. So it's almost as if should we really see that much downside given how bullish the macro factors are for Bitcoin? It's in its global adoption stage. So for me, I mean, I will be surprised if it actually gets there. Obviously, it's a level that's well within reasonable probability, but I'm thinking there's a decent chance that we don't actually test it and that the low could be in. Okay, obviously we need to see constructive price action, make a higher low here, but I think that would be a pretty good signal going into, the next few months. So we talked about how we have this theme that we're going to talk about in this video, which is Bitcoin, AI, and meme coins. And the reason why I want to talk about that is because that's what's really strong right now and really has been most of this cycle. If we look at Bitcoin, obviously Structurally, it looks really good. It's still above its 100-day moving average. Not that far from the highs. I mean, it's like, about 15% from the highs here. And if we look at memes in general and AI in general, it's a similar situation. In fact, I would say they look even better than Bitcoin. So let's just look at some of these memes, like Pepe here. Well above its 50-day moving average, not far from the highs. This is a very strong chart. Now, this doesn't mean that it can't consolidate further within this range it's establishing now, but this is very constructive, strong price action. It's showing you there's demand. People want to get into these memes, okay? And you can see it across the board here, okay? So this is another meme called Whiff, above its 50-day moving average, not that far from the highs. The chart, I wish it went back a little bit further, but it's still very much close to its all-time high, showing constructive price action. And you see the same thing for Bonk here, okay? These look completely different than the tokens I'm about to show you. But first, let's go into AI. I want to show you memes and AI versus the rest of the market. So if you look at AI, same situation, not quite as strong as memes. Some of them are stronger than others. We have FET here, which is an AI coin, not far from all-time highs, still showing constructive price action, still above its 100-day moving average. Looks sort of like Bitcoin in that respect, but showing very constructive price action. Okay, we have Airweave, another AI coin, well above its 50-day moving average, approaching the highs. It actually retested the high yesterday, almost the highs. If you take the bodies of the previous highs here, it actually went above, then came back down. So it's still consolidating, but very strong. Same thing for Render, another AI coin, well above its 50-day moving average and not far from the highs. Another example is Near, okay, which is an AI coin, a little bit different than the other ones, but same situation. Now let me just show you some of the coins that are altcoins that really a lot of people thought would look really good by this time in the cycle, just to show you the difference in demand, the difference in price action. This is TIA. This was supposed to be one of the strongest coins of the cycle. Now, to be fair, it had an enormous run up earlier in the cycle, but this thing is significantly off the highs right now, and it doesn't look alive. I mean, it's making lower highs, okay, and just doesn't look very constructive versus the AI coins in the meme that I just showed you. Another one, Solana, which does look better, to be fair, okay? It does look better. I would say that Solana looks better out of the example I'm going to show you. And I think this is probably an exception to the alternative layer ones right now. But even it doesn't look quite as bullish as some of these memes or AI. I would say that this is definitely the stronger out of the coins here that people expected to do well. ETH, another coin people expected to do well, definitely doesn't look as strong, right? Well below its 100-day moving average. Looks sort of lifeless down here, okay? AVAX, a coin that I thought would be doing well by this point in the cycle, below its 200-day moving average. It is currently roughly, 40-something% off the highs. So what I'm trying to show you is most of the altcoins actually are going sideways at best, and some of them are just downright downtrending versus Bitcoin, AI, and memes. So this is really the theme right now. And you're seeing liquidity getting sucked out of some of the, I guess some people will call them boomer coins now. Many of the winners from previous cycles, the altcoin market in general, is really bleeding and being, moved to AI and memes and Bitcoin. Okay. Very important for, building a strategy for this cycle. One thing I want to mention here, and this is the last thing we'll mention in this video, is one of the important things that I want to follow, one of the important signals is the stablecoin market caps. And I combined a few of the big stablecoins. So this is Tether, which is USDT, USDC, and FDUSD, which is like an Asian stablecoin that a lot of people in Asia, I reckon, use. They're three of the big ones. You probably could have used just USDT to get a good example of the overall stablecoin market, considering it's significantly larger than the others. But as we can see, most of the year we've been going just straight up, and now we're starting to see a little bit of a pullback. And you can kind of use this as a proxy for liquidity moving into the crypto space. So this is definitely going to be something we want to see resume to the upside to get confidence and more of an, to get confidence in the overall crypto market moving up. Because if you don't see new liquidity moving in, and again, this is not like a perfect proxy for liquidity moving in, but it's, I would say, probably your best bet, the best signal that we have. If you don't see this going up, then that would mean for Bitcoin to go up, and memes and AI, you would need to see altcoins being drained. And that is what we're seeing, right? So even though the total stablecoin market is going down, memes and AI are going up and Bitcoin is holding. So that's telling you that liquidity is being, the existing liquidity already here is being moved around. So when you're in this kind of scenario, you definitely have to be pretty choosy on, what you want to focus on. So we're going to keep this video pretty brief. We talk a lot about these concepts in the Discord, and I hope you guys join us there. And until next time, happy hunting, friends.
Hey, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel if you'd like more updates like this, and let us know in the comments, what do you think about today's video and DeFiancy update and insight? Also, make sure that you join our Discord, our free community chat where we discuss things like this, what's going on in real time. Typically, our Discord community is the first to know what's happening, and we would love to see you there. Check the link in the description. And until then, we'll see you in the next DeFiancy Insight video. Bye for now.